things in my mind of things I had to overcome. And I started callousing my mind through a process, and it basically started with working out. It started with working out. I started with doing, like, if it started raining outside, for instance, my mind would say, fuck that, man, I don't want to go run. If it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it started raining outside, my mind said, you got to go run.
Get up and go run.
You have to, because I was fighting this other person. Everything I didn't want to do is what got me to where I'm at today.
Interesting.
Every single thing. So where we find comfort, that's where I started getting scared. When I started saying, oh, it's raining, I'm not going out there. No, you cannot say that. You cannot do that. You have got to do this. So whatever my brain thought, I did the opposite. Wherever the comfort was, I went the opposite direction. And over a period of time, boy, it calluses the shit out of your mind. You start to really develop a whole nother being. Most people attack life with an unprepared mind. What I do is I try to account for all things that could happen, might happen, probably will happen, and then the unknowns. So basically, I can't account for everything, but I do know there could be some things that come up in life that you need to be ready for. I know for a fact I'm not going to want to work out tomorrow. Therefore, I'm preparing my mind for that. I don't want to do that. I know tomorrow will come with some difficult decisions to make. Prepare myself, not in a morbid way, but just like, look, man, be ready for life. Don't let life just start attacking you left and right. Make sure that you start to build a mental armor so then you're ready for life. And that comes with a very physical way, and the physical helps out the mental. But honestly, it was, I realized at a young age how to change myself was through discipline. And the military didn't teach me that. It was something I realized I had zero discipline, zero self-discipline. And I realized I have to start developing this. And I started really because I was horrible at reading and I was horrible at writing. I have so many learning disabilities, it's not even funny. So I just sit down at the table and spend so much time in this, reading and writing and learning. And that kind of translated over to my self-discipline with working out. So that's where it started. I started when I was about 16 years old and said, well, I'm a 4th grade reading level. You know, let me go ahead now and start really focusing, because I'm not gonna get in the military. I gotta pass the test.
Yeah.
So that's where it started for me. It's more important to own your weaknesses. You have to really triple down on those, man. Because why? You wanna become a full human being. We like to run away from weaknesses. Like for instance, if you're good at running, all you wanna do is run. If you're great at reading, you have several books. But we don't do those things that we're not good at. So for me, I realized, shit, man, like I keep on running away from these things I'm not good at. I have to dive into these things. I have to become one with these things, and that's what happened. And so I own them both. Yeah. And I talk very openly about them both. Well, what drove me a lot, and it's kind of funny, growing up, being the kid I was, I found strength in different movies. So I come home, in one movie I found a lot of strength, and as funny as it may seem, but I visualized this scene. I do it today during the pull-up record. I did 4,030 pull-up. The last time I did it, I actually got it. It took me 3 times. I played one song for 17 hours pretty much. And it's from this movie, Rocky 1, round 14. I related to the person in the movie, but just the one scene when Apollo's beating the shit out of Rocky. He falls in the corner, and everybody, and Rocky, and Apollo turns around, arms up, happy as shit. I got this guy. He turns around not knowing that Rocky's trying to get up off the canvas. Mickey's his trainer saying stay down. Right. Everybody's saying you did good. You did good. You went 14 rounds with the champ. Rocky didn't hear shit. He got up, and what sticks in my mind today, and I'm seeing it right now, when he got up, Apollo starts to turn around to see the aftermath of what the fuck he just destroyed. And he did not expect to see what he saw. And what I see out of the whole movie, I see Apollo Creed's face. And I said to myself as a young kid, I want to be that. I don't need to win. I don't need trophies. I don't need people to fucking like me. I just want what he has. A fictional character, whatever the hell it was, I want that. And I visualized that. And I want to become the guy who can get off the canvas. Life. I'm talking about life right now. Yeah. In life, even life itself puts their head down towards David Goggins. This motherfucker is not going to stop. So that mentality became what I wanted. And that's how it started, with that visualization of the canvas. And all I gotta do is just keep getting up. I literally at 297, I just started calling up different recruiters, active duty recruiters, and they got into the conversation about how much I weighed and this and that, and to cut to the chase, they all pretty much laughed me off the phone. Like, you know, man, you're 6'1" and 297. You can only be 191. You know, like height and weight limits and everything else. And I was way exceeding those with prior service and everything else. I was one of those not too good recruits to pick up. So I went to the reserve recruiter. Steven Saljo was my recruiter. I walked in weighing 297. He looked at me strangely, and I said, I want to be a SEAL. And lucky enough, the guy looked at me and said, let's see what we can do. He weighed me. I weighed 106 pounds overweight. And this is during the whole 1999 transition to 2000, so the whole computer glitches and everything else. People were worried. So they wanted to get me into this class because this reserve program that I like to be a part of was going to end. The guy said, man, there's a program that's about to end that you can go, and if you make it through BUDS, you'll then go active duty, and you'll be a SEAL. If not, you come the fuck home. And I was like, ugh. So anyway, he goes, make you lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months. I said, I can't lose that weight. Went back to work. A bad day happened. I found a lot of cockroaches, a lot of rodents. On my way home driving, I said, this is my life. My life is this. This is my life. I'm not that smart. I have a horrible life. I have these two guys, one guy that, so I became this 297 pound person because it became my body armor. Because the inside was a fragile, weak, insecure kid. So I put this big man around it. So when people looked at me, I intimidated them. I scared them. But if they knew the real me, just a little punk. I was a little punk kid in a 24-year-old guy's body. So I knew that. No one else did. So I tried to change my life, and it started there. I went to the recruiter's office. I went there. Bad day at work. The bad day at work made me realize I couldn't run. The first thing about it was, so I said to myself, I'm gonna run 4 miles. My first run out the gate, I'm gonna run 4 miles. I ran a mile, I ran a quarter of a mile, walked home, sat on the couch depressed. I said, man, there's no way I can do this. But what I realized though, is I wasn't gonna give up. Because I already given up a million times. And I thought about how would I feel at 50 years old if I gave up now? I mean, not to have, you know, so I kept all this stuff in my mind. And basically, I started becoming obsessed. I slowly, it didn't happen that night on the couch. Over a period of time, I started becoming obsessed with studying, with weight, with being somebody, with making people who thought I was gonna be nothing kind of like feel like shit. I became obsessed with, you have to make this right. And the only person that's gonna do it is yourself. So I became obsessed with just being obsessed. And I was a kid who kind of got the bad genes. You know, I had all these little sickly issues, all these allergic to shit. I was a little sickly kid. And it's funny how when people hear my story now, they want to put a title on me. Like, I'm superhuman. And I love it because basically it makes you feel better by putting a title on me. You can do it too. Yeah, it's a choice. It's a horrible choice. It's a hard choice. It's a lot of suffering involved. So for me to get the start line, through that start line journey, I realized, shit, I'm capable. So what happens through this whole process is the change of the mind. It's a change of the guard. Someone once owned my brain. I never owned it. I never had everybody had it. It was my dad's fault. My mom wasn't home fault. My life was, everybody had a piece of my fucking brain. And through this journey of suffering, and the suffering, I put it in because I started finding myself. And I started, oh no, I'm gonna take this fucking back from me. This part of my brain is mine now. And I started puzzling back this piece of my brain. And through that, I grew confidence, where I had this internal conversation with myself a lot. And I knew I had to make a stand. Because I knew where I was going. I knew where this road led that I was on. And I was afraid. I was afraid to make that stand. So this process was going on a long time in my mind. You know, I was afraid of this, afraid of that, afraid of this, afraid of that. I knew I had to face this shit, man. But through facing a lot of this stuff, that's what started happening to me. Through facing it, I started getting more and more courage, one thing at a time. So when I overcame the water, more courage. When I overcame the fear of myself, the fear of failure, the fear of being judged, the fear of kind of like, so in this process, I went from David Goggins, I started forming a guy named Goggins. I had to really I realized I had to reinvent a whole nother human being within myself, because who I am wasn't going to make it. This guy is not going to cut it. So I had to be a guy who can take any kind of pain. And we stayed in the water. That's all OLH is, which is pararescue school when I went through, is just that every day. So for 6 weeks, I didn't sleep. I was just terrified of going back to that water, but I didn't want to quit. Because I always quit things in my life. When things got hard, I bounce out. I quit everything, and I wanted to make a stand. Yeah. And so once I finally got through the ASVAB test, I started feeling more confident. I can read, I can write, I taught myself something. And I worked so hard on how to swim that I started getting a little more confident. I didn't want to go backwards. Yeah. And so when everything got hard for me, I always went backwards. I said, not this time. So I wasn't going to quit regardless. So, but what happened was week 6, they pulled us all out, like 25, 30 guys left, and they drew my blood. They found out I had sickle cell. They didn't know. They're like, well, you made it so far. So they pulled me out of training for a week. And they want to do more studies, more tests, see what's going on. They did all that stuff. I stayed out for a week, and I got real comfortable. So when you go from being uncomfortable to comfortable, your mind's like, I'm not going back in that water again.
Absolutely.
You saw your boys getting trashed in the water, and you're on the sidelines watching saying, So a week went by, the doc called me back up, and I'm thinking I'm going to get medically disqualified from the Air Force. I'm like, this is great. I'll never have to quit. They'll kick me out. I'll never have to quit. So the doctor looks at me, doctor says, you know what, we can push you back in training. I said, oh shit. But I thought to myself, a week's gone by, a couple weeks left, and I'm out of here, man. I made it through OLH. I can go, try to be a pararescueman. No, I went back to the CO. Sergeant Lumber looked at me and said, I'm glad you're back in training, man, but you gotta start from day one. And I was like, fuck. So my mind raced real fast, and I went right back to my old self. I had to find a way out of this. I cannot start back from day one, but I don't want to quit. So I used that medical thing as an excuse for me. I said, hey, you know what, Sergeant, I'm scared about the sickle cell thing, and no, I wasn't scared about that. I was scared of the water. And I didn't want to quit. So I found a way out without quitting, and the way out was him saying, well, you know what, I understand. So he gave me a medical. So I keep my head up a little bit and not quit, but my pride was shot because I knew the truth. I knew that I really quit. So I did a job called TAC-P, great hardcore job. So I'm 175 pounds now, and in 3 years, I went from 175 to 297. So I gained 106 pounds. I ate my ass off. I found comfort in eating, because you always have this thing hanging over your fucking head when you're not doing right by yourself. And I basically quit pararescue training. I did quit pararescue training, and it bothered me. So it haunted me. So I gained this weight. I tried to become a power lifter. I tried to find things I was good at. So I ran away from things that challenged me. So I got out of the Air Force weighing 297 pounds and started working for Ecolab, spraying for cockroaches from 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. And that became my life. And at 297 pounds with limited education, started spraying for cockroaches. One day, I would spray down Steak and Shake as my last spray down. I knew the manager real well, and he would make this special shake for me, man, with a chocolate, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of straw. You know, when you're depressed, you like to eat and drink shakes and whatever. At a 45-minute commute home in my car, and I stopped by 7-Eleven, get a box of mini chocolate donuts, and I would get home, and I would pop the TV on, walk back to the shower, listen to the TV while I was taking a shower, and that was my day. This day, what came on was a Discovery Channel show. I don't know if it was Discovery Channel or History Channel, and I said, it's the hardest train in the world or something. So, I try to be a pararescue, so I want to see what the fuck you're talking about. So I walked out, sat on the couch, start watching this, man. I saw the waves rushing over them, the snot bubbles, the jackhammer, the sugar cookies, and I felt so small. I felt like I was what everybody said I was, nobody. What I said I was, nobody. And I felt horrible. And I watched it. At the very end of it, I'll never forget the graduation ceremony. This is what stuck to me. It stuck with me even to this day. The CEO, whoever gave the graduation speech, said, We live in a society where mediocrity is often rewarded. And he went on to talk about something. These men like this or something that detest mediocrity. And I heard that, and I saw him stand up there with so much pride. And I saw the 18, 16 men that sat in the, in their dress whites who were graduating. And I saw the 150 guys that were ringing the bell, quitting and shit. And I said, I wonder how it feels to be that motherfucker sitting there in that white uniform, knowing that all these other guys came that were just as good as me and much better than me. And I'm sitting here at the very end of it all. Yeah. I never had a feeling of completion, a feeling of success. And I said, I gotta face this water. I gotta face this fear. Whatever the learning experience I got from mile 70 to mile 101, because that's what I ended up getting, changed my life forever. I thought I had gone through all these different crucibles in my life, and I thought I was at the pinnacle of mental toughness, as they call it, mental toughness, whatever. Mental toughness is a lifestyle. Yeah. It's not a class. So I was here, and I thought, man, I'm way up here mental toughness wise. My mindset's great. Mile 70, I sat down in this chair, and my nutrition was so bad, my plan was so messed up. I sat down, and I literally had to go to the bathroom so bad. I hadn't gone to the bathroom in 12 hours. And that Ritz cracker was basically a Ritz cracker ball, because without the proper water and I was just jacked up. So I sat there, and my ex-wife used to be, I don't know if she's or not, I don't know what she's doing now, but she was a nurse. And I was in bad shape. But I hadn't really gone to the bathroom that bad yet, not like I did afterwards. But the thing was, I couldn't get up. My mouth was all messed up. But one thing I realized that we get so anxious, and in that 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, called the 1 second decision, you seize up, but you flood the compartment, which is your brain, of all this shit. The what ifs, oh my God, you spaz out, and then you quit, and then once you quit, you regret it. Happens all the time in Hell Week. 130 hours, you get in the first hour, they freeze your ass off, and you can't comprehend 130 hours of the shit. You're freezing. You're not going to go home that night. You're not going to Island Pasta to get the pasta meal that night. Your ass is mine, and you can't handle it. So I started just learning these processes of calming my brain down. I'm in the worst shape of my entire life. I've gone 70 miles. I've never gone past 20 miles. I'm horrible. It's a great rewarding feeling, but it's also a feeling of the worst pain I've had in my life. My feet are broken. I'm messed up bad, and I had to take this big pile of shit and slowly start to compartmentalize what was in front of me. And the first thing was, you can't stand up. Your blood pressure's messed up, so you can't go another 30 miles unless you be able to stand up. Fix that. Got around those issues. I was able to stand up, got on the track again, and I was barely making it on the track. And then this is what changed my life to this day. I can't really imagine anything ever topping it. At mile 81, my ex-wife looked at me and she said, you're not going to, we're not going to make this time, because I was going like a 30-some minute miles, barely getting around the track. The shape I was in at mile 70 was the worst shape of my life. I can't say it enough. I ended up running I ran 101 miles. I ran the next 20 miles. Didn't walk another step. And I did it in like 18 hours and 56 minutes. And what I believe happened to me is when my mind, body, spirit, everything, for the first time, and it's never happened again since that time, everything really connected. When my mind knew he's not going to quit this race. Non-negotiable. I gave myself no way out. My mind said, we have to find more. We've all of us have gone through very hard times. But when we're in a hard time, our mind has a way of forgetting what all we've overcome. I have a way of taking 1 second when I want to quit and saying, okay, you endured this. So I look at my life and how I came up as the ultimate training ground versus most people look at it as why? Woe is me. God, why? Why? I had to flip this upside down and say, hang on a second. God was training me to be one of the baddest men on the planet. That's how this was my journey. So when I was in the worst time of my life in Hell Week, I looked at everybody and said, I'm the most trained person here. So I'm looking at the baddest people on the planet. I'm looking at them like this. You guys can't hold a stick. So I started looking at verses like I don't belong here versus like
I might be the baddest person to ever come here. Who could have pulled this off? Who could have been given a sewer to live in their mind and say, okay, at birth, I'm gonna put you in the worst place on the planet Earth, and let me see if you can go to the top of the mountain with nothing. But just hard work, grit, and figuring it out, and not putting yourself back in the dungeon every time something got hard. So that's what became my daily voice was, you really are the baddest person on the planet. And after a period of time, you start to believe that. And so that's what happened to the first Hell Week, the second Hell Week, the third Hell Week. That became my new norm. So what most people fear, I can never go through one. I don't want to go through two. Even SEALs will tell you that. That Navy, so I did 18 months in Navy SEAL training. It's only supposed to be 6 months long. It became my new norm. And that's what people don't do enough of. You're always looking for a new norm. And that's how my mind started saying, getting beat, suffering, broken legs, this is my new norm. And my mind started changing with the reality of who I want to be.